If the military attacks by Israel continue to escalate as they have over the past 72 hours since the Israeli strikes against Gaza, despite reports of a 48-hour ceasefire, LaRouche has warned that this could lead to the destruction of Israel itself. Calls have come in from the UN for an end to the attacks from both sides, and there has been a denunciation of the Israeli attacks from around the world. Lyndon LaRouche today called the actions by Israel, quote, supreme insanity, end quote, saying that the idea that Israel can defeat the Palestinians employing the kind of military brutality that we have seen over the past 3 days is the height of insanity. Furthermore, Israel ought to know better than that by now, in light of the 2006 war against Lebanon. Presently, some in the international press and the war faction in the Middle East are warning that the rocket attacks coming from Gaza and led by Hamas may soon be joined by the Lebanese Hezbollah, and that Iran is supplying the ammunition for attacks on Israel. LaRouche countered these statements, saying that there is no existential military threat to Israel, that the only threat is of the outbreak of peace. The threat is if the Israeli negotiations with Syria and Lebanon go through. Then at that point, the British intelligence-controlled Muslim Brotherhood, which is what Hamas is, and Benjamin Netanyahu, who is also controlled by British intelligence, lose their power to blackmail and control policy in the region because peace breaks out. LaRouche continued that the British are running the attempted sabotage of peace in the region for fear of losing control of the Middle East, which they have retained since the 1916 Sykes-Picot Agreement. That agreement split the Ottoman Empire into the current zones of ethnic, religious, and tribal conflict. The outbreak of peace, as has been negotiated between Israel, Syria, and Lebanon, would break up the almost century-old British colonial Sykes-Picot game. Almost 1 year ago, EIR warned about this scenario in a memorandum circulated after discussions with an Israeli source close to the Olmert government. The memo dated January 15th read, quote, following the Bush visit to Israel, the Israeli Security Cabinet met and approved, in principle, major military strikes into Gaza to uproot Hamas. The plan would be for Israeli forces to move into Gaza in force, but also be alert for action from Hezbollah. In that case, the IDF has prepared for a new Lebanon war, this time extending into Syria. End quote. In other words, the recent attacks on Gaza had been pre-planned and were waiting to be carried out, as now, to attempt to sabotage peace with strong support from Defense Minister Ehud Barak and British asset Benjamin Netanyahu. LaRouche concluded that the fact that certain people in Israel and leading circles in London feel gravely threatened by such an eruption of peace cannot be an excuse for inaction. With the incoming Obama administration in Washington, after 8 years of Bush-Cheney madness, we have a genuine opportunity to achieve a peace agreement between Israel and Syria right away. It could be accomplished on the first afternoon that President Obama is in office, and a Syria-Israel peace deal would immediately be followed by an agreement involving Lebanon. This would dramatically change the dynamic in the entire region, LaRouche said, and it would set the only conditions for a truly just and viable two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians.